Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special planning meeting of the Melton Borough Council. I am Councillor Alan Thwaites, the Chair of Planning. Just some housekeeping. In the event of having to evacuate the Council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist anyone who needs any assistance. Please put your phone to silent during this meeting. We will be using the audio visual system this evening, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. Members speaking, please raise your hand if you wish to speak and speak directly into the microphone in front of you. Please remember to turn it off once you have finished. Members voting will be by raised hands. I'd like to introduce those present this evening. The members this evening are, to my right, Councillor Mike Brown, substituting for Councillor Allnutt, Councillor Ian Atherton, Councillor Siggy Atherton, apologies from Councillor Ronan Brown and Councillor Marilyn Gordon. To my left, the councillors are Councillors James Mason, Councillor Richard Sharp, who's substituting for Councillor Glancy. Just had apologies from Councillor Lee Higgins, and Councillor Don Pritchett is also present. We have a team of officers present who are, to my left, the Legal Services Manager, Tom Pickwell. To my right, Planning Officer, Mark Ketley, Planning Development Team Leader, Chaya Pancholi, and Planning Officer, Amy Smith. We also have our Democratic Services team present in assisting with technology and taking the minutes, and that's Ellen Hange and Adam Green. So, as I just mentioned, going with the agenda, the apologies for absence, Councillor Allnutt and Councillor Cumbers and Councillor Glancy have given their apologies. Councillor Mike Brown, as I've just mentioned, has been appointed as substitute for Councillor Allnutt. Councillor Richard Sharp has been appointed as substitute for Councillor Glancy. And again, just for the record, apologies have been received by Councillor Higgins and Councillor Brown. So, declarations of interest. Members to declare any interest as appropriate in respect of items to be considered this evening. Are there any members that wish to declare an interest? No, but great. Thank you very much. Therefore, we'll move straight on to the single application for this evening. The application 24/00667/FUL, the Stockyard, Scolford Road, Melton Mowbray. And I'd like to pass over to Amy to make the presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Just a temporary pause while we have some technical difficulties with the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, members. The application before you relates to the Stockyard site located to the north of Melton Mowbray Town Centre between Nottingham Road to the west and Scolford Road to the east. The application is presented to committee today as the applicant is Melton Borough Council. The site comprises 1.75 hectares and has a number of industrial sheds and a large area of hard standing, primarily used for informal car parking. The site's current use relates to the adjacent livestock market and associated services, as well as commercial activity. There are five existing accesses into the site, 2 from Nottingham Road and 3 at Scolford Road. The site is in flood zone 1 and has a low risk of fluvial and surface water flooding. The Melton Mowbray Conservation Area abuts the southern boundary of the site, and there are 3 listed buildings located on Park Road to the south, two of which you can see here on screen denoted by the orange circles. We have received 21 comments from the public in total, 5 objections, 10 supporting and 6 neutral. We have also received 1 petition from a residents group with 58 signatures. A summary of these comments can be found at paragraph 7.2.3 of the report. Next slide, please. The proposed development comprises a hybrid application for the redevelopment of the Stockyard site. A hybrid application is a request for both full and outline planning permission on the same site for different phases of development. Full planning permission is sought for phase 1 at the site, which comprises the erection of the anchor building and production hubs 1, 2 and 3, development of the festival square, a multifunctional space for large-scale events and formalisation of the on-site car parking, refurbishment of an existing building to the west of the site backing onto Nottingham Road, partial demolition of an existing building and creation of new public toilet facilities, improved vehicular access from Nottingham Road, and general improvements throughout the site for pedestrians and public rail. Outline consent is sought for phase 2 development, comprising new single-storey units along the northern edge of the banqueting suite, improvements to the layout, access and facilities at the banqueting suite and the exhibition hall, and improvements to the thermal performance of the existing buildings. The development would provide floor space for use class E and sui generis uses relating mainly to food production and manufacturing with ancillary retail. Due to the nature of the development, highways and drainage matters for both phases to be determined within this application. Next slide, please. On screen, we have the proposed site plan, and members also have the benefit of a hard copy of the same site plan in front of them for reference. The blue circles you can see on this plan denote elements of the first phase of development. The yellow circles denote the outline phase. Gate 8 at Nottingham Road to the west of the site would form the primary vehicular access into the site. Gate 9, also on Nottingham Road, would be pedestrianised, and gates 1 to 3 on Scolford Road would be available for delivery only and not open for public use. The anchor building is located to the western boundary of the site, north of the refurbished Nottingham Road units. Producer Hub 1 is located to the northwestern corner of the site. Producer Hub 2 is located centrally within the site, adjacent to the existing Trader Hall building, and Producer Hub 3 is located to the southwestern boundary of the site. Festival Square is the open area of the site you can see on the plan, located to the west of the site, and will serve as a car parking on non-event days and as an event space when required. 79 car parking spaces, including accessible spaces and electric vehicle charging points, would be provided on site. 413 PV panels are proposed across the site upon the roofs of the anchor building, production hubs 1, 2 and 3, and the Trader Hall. Next slide, please. Moving on to the key aspects of the development individually, the anchor building is designed as the flagship building of the development. It is a 3-storey building located adjacent to Gate 8 on Nottingham Road to a maximum height of 11.95 metres and will provide units for manufacturing, production and educational purposes. Next slide, please. Producer Hub 1 would provide 5 units. The 2-storey building would have a maximum height of 10.5 metres with internal space for optional mezzanine levels within each unit if required by the occupier. Next slide, please. Producer Hub 2 would form an extension to the existing buildings on site. The building would allow for 3 units and an outdoor seating area. The maximum height of this development would be 9.15 metres. Next slide, please. Producer Hub 3 would be a single-storey building to a maximum height of 5.5 metres and would provide 6 units. Next slide, please. There is proposed to be partial demolition of an existing building on site, situated to the western elevation of the the banqueting suite and exhibition hall, circled in green on the screen. The images at the bottom of the screen depict the existing layout of the area on the left and the proposed new public toilet extension on the right. The proposal would ensure this area would be more pedestrian friendly, physically creating more circulation space in this area of the site. Next slide, please. The Nottingham Road building is a single-storey building which would be refurbished and brought back into use for three studio units and an accessible public toilet and changing facility. The bottom image on screen depicts the appearance of the development from the west from Nottingham Road itself. Next slide, please. Indicative images of the development have been provided by the applicant. As shown on screen, this image depicts the development from the east looking towards the west. Here you can see the producer hub buildings, the anchor building and the festival square in use for on-site parking. Next slide, please. These images provide a bird's eye view of the multifunctional festival square with the parking arrangements as proposed on the left and an indicative event layout with marquees shown on the right. Next slide, please. As discussed previously, phase 2 of the proposal seeks outline consent only for the redevelopment of the Trader Hall, the banqueting suite and exhibition hall. Access, drainage and landscaping are already submitted for consideration under the current application, and the matters of layout, scale and appearance are to be determined at a later stage if planning permission is granted. Next slide, please. There are 24 conditions recommended at section 10 of the report relating to design, landscaping, highways, drainage and contamination. Also, to bring to members' attention, a formatting error has been picked up in the report at page 30, where the reason for condition 10.7 has merged with condition 10.8. Condition 10.8 shall read with the words of no development shall commence until an assessment of the risk posed by any contamination. Next slide, please. The Highways Authority seek to secure travel packs and bus passes for new employees under a Section 106 agreement. I have considered that the contribution is in accordance with policy IN3 of the Melton Local Plan and consider that the request meets the tests of the Community Infrastructure Levy regulations, which state that Section 106 contributions shall be necessary to make the development acceptable in planning terms. They are directly related to the development and they are fairly and reasonably related in scale and kind to the development. Next slide, please. I have asked Highways to confirm the timescales of the contribution, and they have stated that they would like to secure the timescales with the following wording. A person who is employed by the occupant of each individual unit on the development within the 12-month period from first occupation of that unit. And for the avoidance of doubt, this will include any occupier of the unit during the 12-month period from the date of its first occupation. Next slide, please. So in summary, the principle of the development of the stockyard redevelopment is considered acceptable as it is in a suitable and sustainable location near to the Melton Mowbray Town Centre. The development would maximise social and economic opportunities to the benefit of Melton Mowbray and of the wider borough. The development would refurbish and rejuvenate the existing stockyard site. There are no objections from statutory consultees, and it is recommended that the application is approved subject to conditions and the Section 106.
Thank you very much. Do any members have any questions for the officer for clarification? No? Clean. Thank you, Amy. In that case, then, I'd like to move on straight on to the only speaker this evening, which is Adam Parker from GNS Architects, who is also supported by Phil Norwell and Lee Byrne. If you wish to join the table as well, the 3 minutes conversation is just from the architect, but if you wish to, under any further questions, if you wish to use either other person, that's entirely up to you. Are you okay with, you have 3 minutes from when you start speaking? And Tom will give you a 30-second warning. If at that point you could start closing your argument, that would be fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for your time today and for your consideration of this application. We'd also like to extend our appreciation to Amy for a thorough review and well-considered recommendations. The Stockyard project is a vital step in realising Melton Mowbray's ambition as a rural capital of food, a vision shaped through extensive community consultation and designed to drive meaningful economic investment and job opportunities in the town centre. This development will create a food-focused innovation ecosystem, supporting local businesses with cutting-edge facilities while offering visitors an immersive culinary experience that showcases sustainable food production. More than just a commercial space, the Stockyard will be a hub for education, tourism and industry, attracting many new visitors and strengthening Melton's national profile and unique brand as rural capital of food. Importantly, this proposal complements and enhances the town centre, not competes with it. As confirmed by the retail impact assessment carried out, the Stockyard will generate footfall and economic activity, supporting existing businesses in the town centre while making full use of a unique site that cannot be replicated elsewhere. This is about responsible, sustainable growth. The development will improve pedestrian connectivity, public spaces and event capacity, embracing Melton's heritage through the Theatre of Food concept, serving as an educational resource, engaging visitors of all ages in sustainability, healthy eating and modern food practices. While we are fully committed to delivering these benefits, we wish to contest the Section 106 contributions for bus passes and travel packs. We acknowledge the need for future employees to have increased sustainable travel choices. However, we'd like to highlight that Stockyard will attract small startup businesses focusing on the production of food and drink. Future employees will mostly require the use of a van to transport goods to and from the site, alongside needing access at different times of the day, thus removing this reliance on public transport for a number of employees, which is also supported by current trends on site. We have included several electric vehicle charging points and ample cycle parking to encourage a change to more sustainable travel options for employees. We feel this proposed Section 106 contribution is more relevant to a residential development or a retail-focused site and is not necessarily valid for the Stockyard project. Therefore, we politely ask that this contribution is removed as a condition.
30 seconds.
The Stockyard project is a major opportunity for Melton, boosting economic resilience, attracting investment and reinforcing the town's unique identity. We respectfully urge you to support this application. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parker. Can I ask any members, Councillor Gordon, the first with a hand up?
Yes, it's to do with the Festival Square. I think it's really good that it's got two functions, if you like. But I'm a bit worried. I'm not sure what the Festival Square would be used for. If it's for fetes and stuff like that. But I'm worried about if there's loud music, about the neighbours. And it not necessarily late at night either. It could be in the day. And I just wondered what sort of things would be carried on there.
Shall I could actually say that most of that might be covered by licensing, because each event would need to go through licensing, and therefore is not something that we could actually judge. But I understand your point. If you wish to add to that, please do.
It's really in the vein of the current food festivals, Chalk Fest, all of the kind of food-related festivals. There would be options for other elements of events, but yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ian Atherton.
Thank you, Chair. So a couple of things that stand out to me that come out of both the site plan or the proposed site plan and the information in the response from Leicester Highways, it would appear that access to the site using Gate 8 is to be the vehicle access, yet access into the site is a left turn only, access from egress from the site is to be a left turn only. How are people travelling from Leicester direction supposed to get into the site, and how are people travelling from Nottingham direction supposed to get out of the site? The information from Leicester Highways presupposes that the Melton Mowbray Distributor Road will be completed by 2026. We already know it's late, and it will only be half complete, so you can be able to get from Oakham round the top to Nottingham Road, but not from Leicester. So how does that left turn in and left turn out actually work without making the traffic inside Melton Mowbray much worse?
It is two-way. It's not left. We've not restricted the turnings at the moment as per our design.
I think
Is that what
just
you're
to
referring
clarify, I think it's during the build phase, the construction
Oh, that's
rules are a left turn only, but after that, it's two-way. So I just wanted to clarify that's my understanding now, and I just wanted to make sure that that was true. Is that true? Sorry.
yes, that's true.
So all the construction traffic will come from Nottingham, but go to Leicester.
I'd have to defer to the contractors on that one. We didn't put together.
Right, okay. If I may, Chair, there is a second point that interests me in the documentation from Leicester Highways, where it says you're committed to reducing single occupancy car driver trips by 10%. I'm interested to know how you're actually going to achieve that, how you monitor it, and what the consequences of not achieving it might be.
Thank you. So in terms of the way that the site will be managed moving forward, obviously that is an aspiration that we have. The way it will be monitored is essentially through the continual or the contract that we have in place with the site operation. So the operators that are managing that site moving forward. I don't believe that any conditions have been placed on us meeting that target or anything relating to that. But as referenced in the 3 minutes that we had earlier, we have put in kind of electrical vehicle charging points and also cycle parking to try and encourage more sustainable travel methods into the site. The joint vehicle is a portion of that approach, not wholly reliant on it.
Okay. The word committed is used in the response from Leicester Highways, and it says the client will be committed by planning condition to implement that reduction. So do we have a condition that states that?
And the thought goes that goes against the 106 requirements, but which is for bus passes. But if we're committed to trying to get people to come into cars, but that's something we can talk about and debate.
And I guess there's a phase 2 to come yet. So if that condition's not there, can we ensure that it is there as part of the phase 2 so that the totality of the development does reflect that?
Maybe we can talk about that later. Was there any other questions while Amy's actually just searching through? We can move on and come back. Any, Councillor Pritchett?
Thank you very much. I'd like to focus on the monitoring of the travel plan and the £11,000. These are requested for residential developments, but the principle's still the same. I've got some questions. During the transport assessment and the travel plan, did the people from the Leicestershire Highways, or shall we say, Choose How You Move active travel, actively add any value into your plans during the application, during development of documents?
Apologies. Sorry, just to clarify, are you asking if they inputted into our submission?
Did you get any value from them during putting the submission together?
So I don't believe Active Travel, we used an external expertise to pull together that plan. It wasn't
Yeah.
Active Travel. Though.
Yeah. In respect of the money that they want for the monitoring, have you been given a schedule about what the monitoring is, what work we're going to get for the £11,000, over what period, and what authority have they got to ask for any corrections?
No clarifications have been sought or given in regards to that at this moment in time.
Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. Just one on your plan here. Allocated bin spaces for all these retail units. Can you point us in the right direction where they are on the plan?
Yeah, do we have a plan on screen? Have you got the plan in front of you? It's the northwest corner of the site. So you see on gate 8, when you come into the site, there's a line of Euro bins allocated along that boundary wall. The intention would be that the tenants would manage their waste within the unit. So P1, behind P1, if you're looking at P1, it'll be just up to the left. From there, there's a large line of, hopefully it's on that plan. Keep going, keep going. There, go back.
Sorry. Is that allocated just recycling waste, and is it got new food waste? Because the new food waste that will be coming in will be attracting a lot of flies and stuff like that, which is a concern.
Yeah. Sorry. As we don't have any of the tenants yet, this will become incumbent on the landlord to manage this process as a waste handling strategy. The intention was that we'd be wanting to segregate the waste, but take your point about food waste, wanted to be generally segregated and refrigerated if it can be. Yeah, so it wouldn't be left out on the street like that. So the intention would be that the tenants would manage their own waste and there'd be storage on site. We've also booked some space by the substation at Gate 8 as well for additional storage if it should be required in more containerized format.
That'll be against the substation then?
To the left of the substation.
But if that catches fire, is that?
The substation has to be 1 hour 20 rated.
Okay, bins on.
The bins aren't.
Okay.
Just to clarify from my point of view, so for the production hubs which are in P3, one at the bottom of the screen, and P2 would still be using those the bins up opposite P1 for all their food waste or waste, and there's given that they're production units.
The intention was that they'd store their waste on site and it would be transported to those points or left out for collection outside their units, not dissimilar to how the brewery acts now. There's also a service corridor behind P2, which we could fit bins in if required to be stored outside from the public.
Sorry, Councillor Mason.
Yes, 3 minutes is not a long time to give an explanation for everything on this, as you well know. But to go back to what I may be anticipating in the debate is your objection to the way that the Section 106 monies have been brought about. Would you like to amplify that? Because I was interested in your argument about vans and times of day and when they deliver and whether bus passes, etc., would be appropriate for the people because of the nature of the businesses. Could you just amplify that for me, please?
Thank you. Yeah, so essentially to kind of build upon the argument, the nature of the type of businesses that will be functioning from this site don't lend themselves necessarily to kind of core hours as such. There may be a mixture of part-time and full-time that work essentially shift patterns that they will need to be on site for. That doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying it won't, but it doesn't necessarily always correlate to the availability of public transport in a rural area such as Melton. So the prevalence of which people are likely to benefit from a bus pass, we argue, is less than if it was a core retail area like the town centre, for example. As a result of that, and as a result of the type of business need, which is to move produce to either consumers away from the site or third-party retailers away from the site for deliveries and things like that, also mean that there is less likelihood that bus passes are going to provide a kind of viable solution to workers that need to be on site.
But Richard, you've no evidence to suggest any reason for that. It's just a feeling on your part, or have you some? I hate to use the word metrics but have you any metrics to suggest?
There's no formal evaluation. It's predominantly anecdotal from speaking to current occupiers, but nothing in writing or formalised. So essentially a gut feel, like you were suggesting, yeah.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I'm sorry not to let you off the hook on that one, but I was interested. You referred to it differs from core retail areas like the town centre, which is 70 metres away, according to the application we received. And also employees working shift patterns and around the clock. And I would accept that bus travel may not be suitable for all, but I'm also imagining that some of those could be quite low paid operatives working in this area, and the bus pass might indeed be the difference between them being able to take the job initially and not. So I'm not entirely persuaded. I also, and it may be, this is also partly a question back to the planning officer, because I'm not familiar with this travel pack arrangement with LCC, but I'm assuming that it's an offer to employees rather than every employee gets one and gets a £510 pass, because it refers to there having to be an application made. So for those employees for which it doesn't offer any benefit, there'd be no cost, but for those who might, I'm a bit reluctant to see it dismissed in the way that you have.
Was that a question? I think it's yeah. Okay, we can leave that. We can bring that back to debate. Any of the Councillor Pritchett.
Thank you. I'd like to revisit the section 106. Is it the bus passes you're not happy with, or the £11,000 monitoring cost, or both?
I think one leads on from the other. I mean, obviously there is a cost attached to the both of them. I think our argument isn't necessarily financially based. It's just whether it's relevant and applicable to this type of development.
Any further questions? No? Last offer? In that case, thanks very much for your time, and thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks very much. You may sit back now. So in that case, that was the last speaker. I'd like to move into the debate on this proposal, which we have a recommendation to accept. But so does anybody have any comments to start the debate? Maybe we can start with the 106 payments that we're talking about. Councillor Mason.
Precisely, Chair. Might as well get that one bottomed out. I agree with Councillor Brown. I'm not persuaded by that everyone will turn up in vans or everyone will work out of hours. There's bound to be some part-time workers, bound to be some people that turn up during the core hours of the day, whatever the core hours are, on a residential site. people start work and visit their place to work at all hours of the day and night. It's not a 9 to 5 economy anymore. Some people never leave the house. Some people are never home. That's the way of the world now. So I think what the planners have recommended here, as far as I'm concerned, is within our policies and is entirely appropriate.
Thanks, Chair. I've just showed the Chair an example of when we had this for another site and how we worded it in the section 106. And what we did was we put to provide each employee with a bus pass following receipt of a written request from such employee. So we can do it on a request basis.
And that could be amended to the travel pack as well, if necessary. Yeah. Yeah, but it's by application. Right. Okay. Okay. It's just whether this is doing it by 106 is the correct way of doing it or the best way of doing it. I was just thinking about delays of getting 106s, but Councillor Mason.
I think section 106 is entirely appropriate for this, Chair.
Anybody else like to? Councillor Pritchett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation, Amy, and thank you for the presentation team. Thank you very much. I found the documents on the site useful, and I found the accompanied site visit last Friday. I've just got one area to focus on, and what I do is I start my review by looking at what I expect to see, and then I go and look at the documents, and it's relating to the travel. But first off, I will say I think that the bus situation is appropriate, and similar to the nursing home on the Pera site that had the same request. People who work shifts, they'll do an early shift next week, and so the buses. I think buses are a good idea. So when I looked at this application, and there's a gap missing for me. We've got the documents, and we've got a transport assessment, and then we've got a travel plan. We've got a detailed application for the new area with a multi-use centre piece with farming, and then we've got an outline application for revamping buildings that are already used, markets, displays, etc. So there's going to be a new multi-use area. It's going to have people there. So the people who park the cars there, won't be able to park the cars there, right? We're closing the gate at the north. We've got in the transport assessment 199 car parking spaces at Scorford Road, with 132 at the cattle market. We don't know whether they can be used. It also mentions in the list in the travel plan that you've got Sainsbury's, but I don't know whether that's appropriate. But it seemed to me what was missing from this was what I call event management, how people move about, and I analysed how people moved about in the situation. So what we've ended up with, I look at the travel plan that's no doubt been put together as per the planning rules, but it doesn't cover how people will access on foot, where they will access on foot, and it seems to me where you disable people will be dropped off, etc., etc. There's a piece missing from that. So I'll come back to the £11,000 for the that you've actually got a travel plan that's incomplete, and you want to pay £11,000 to monitor it, but we don't know what they're monitoring, right? They've also got to monitor it themselves as part of the application. So I'm struggling to go with this at the moment. So I'm looking for something that that shows me how we'll park, move about, and then when you take into factors the connectivity to the town centre, where you're hoping people dwell longer, the cars don't go every hour. I just don't see. So I'll close on that. But so spending £11,000 to monitor a travel plan that's incomplete, I don't get.
Yeah, I was just going to answer one part, and I'm sure I'll get corrected if I'm wrong on this. But for the events, for the licensing, they will need to actually produce travel plans for those events. So if they are expecting 5,000 and 10,000, whatever it is, as they do now, they will have to present a travel plan for that event. Yes, it may lose some parking spaces if they put a marquee on it for an event at the weekend, which most of these events are. But I'm just leaving, am I interpreting that correctly?
Chair, there's a condition that the planning authority's got to do a car parking plan in here, which hopefully would include disabled parking, right? But also, unless you do how people move and which way they're coming in, where you're going to put your bike rack, because I've seen this before, people put the bike racks not where the cyclists who would come and use them. So there's a gap missing, and the fact that we haven't had the active travel people looking at this, and then they want £11,000 to monitor what? So I'm just coming back to my core responsibilities of safeguarding public money and best use of public money. So I'm not in favour at the moment until I hear more about what we're going to get for the money.
So would you have assuming we won't pluck a solution out of the air, what would be your solution to that? What are you suggesting should happen? We don't pay that 11,000, or do we dictate what that 11,000 is used for, or the results, etc.?
I think we could do some more work about what would happen in times of an event. Where would we want, using the active travel experts at the county council, how would we best walk in and then walk into the town? I think you've got to look at how that would happen. Look at the car parking spaces and the analysis, with taking into account some land may be sold off at the top of Scorford Road, and then they've got nothing really to monitor at the moment, as far as I can see.
So it's a pure objection to actually paying the £11,000, just for clarity.
Yeah, what am I getting for it? And we keep. I did come here tonight, Chair, thinking, well, the residential, it's no different to the residential schemes, and we put up with it every month. LCC asked for it. And then I thought to myself, two wrongs don't make a right. So I'm making a bit of a stand tonight on this. It's not specifically for the cattle market. This comes up regularly with residential developments, and I think it's planning by numbers. This is. I'm sorry, so it just doesn't work for me.
I might come back, pre-warn the officers that I'll come back and talk to that. But is there any other, just to move on the debate, we'll come back to that point. Is it? Councillor Ian Atherton.
Thank you, Chair. I think my own stance is generally I'm in favour of developing, enhancing what we've currently got at the stockyard, be that through new development or refurbishment or both, which is the way we currently intend to go. My real concern with it is traffic. Despite assurances tonight that traffic will be allowed in and out the site in both directions, the plan implies, if it doesn't clearly show, that traffic going into the site and out of the site will be limited to left turn only. I know we were told that that's construction traffic. That worries me even more, because what we're saying for construction traffic is it's okay for HGVs of all sorts of shapes and sizes to come out of the site and into Melton Mowbray before they have to find somewhere to turn round to go off up to Nottingham. And if they're coming into the site from the Leicester area, they've got to go past the site to find somewhere to turn round in order to get into the site. And that seems fairly ill-conceived to me. The plan that I'm staring at shows a new traffic island to be installed at Gate 8, and the way that is shaped leads me to no other conclusion that access into the site and out of the site is left turn only. In other words, you enter the site from the Nottingham Road, coming from the direction of Nottingham, you leave the site going into the town centre. I can draw no other conclusion. That's my only real concern, is the amount of traffic we're forcing into the town centre, onto a road, into a junction that, despite what Leicester says, we all know is over capacity already. It suffers tailbacks at each and every rush hour. sometimes outside of rush hour too. It's a nightmare, and this, during the construction phase at least, is going to make it worse. And that's, to be fair, that's the only concern I've got.
Although unfortunately, just to answer that, we have the Leicester County Council Highways report, which I don't wish to give that speech again, but we all know what we can and can't do with the report. Councillor Pritchett.
Thank you. I'd like to pick up on a couple of things that Councillor Atherton said. Firstly, you've got to control your traffic coming in and going out, and in terms of an event management plan could actually halt the traffic to allow some, like you do going to Belvoir Castle and everything. Well, something that was said in the questioning by Councillor Atherton I want to pick up on. He raised a very good point, and I'll link it to my dot-to-dot traffic management from the county council, the desire to reduce single car journeys, right? Well, and that's very good as a statement such, but when you apply it, you know, if you're living on the edge of Melton and your neighbour's not working at the site, you know, there's quite a bit of the nonsense in that when you actually look at it, yet they've not dealt with the other things that have said, disabled and other access. So I just, you know, Ian made all the points about the relevance and that, and how do you police it, monitor it, enforce it, and it's one of the, you know, I think there's one or two other things that are a bit dubious on that list as well.
I can't deny, yeah, it's great as an aspiration, but again, how you monitor it and how you encourage it is difficult. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologise for asking rhetorical questions that should have been left to debate earlier, but this is my first planning committee that I've attended as a member. I just wanted to pick up on the travelling issues, and if I have a bit of a wry smile to start off with, there's no disrespect to Councillor Atherton, but as someone who used to drive on the M25 3 days a week for 15 years, when I hear the word tailback referring to Melton, I do find it slightly less serious than but never mind. I mean, what strikes me, and we don't have any data to back this up, but firstly, the parking on site, the normal day-to-day traffic is based on people who work on site primarily, and those 79 spaces aren't just for all the new businesses, they're for the existing ones as well. So there's not going to be a huge increase in ingress and exit from the site during the normal working day. So I'm not convinced that's going to be a huge exacerbation of the existing traffic issues. And secondly, when it comes to events, again, the application doesn't make any changes outside of the red area to what already exists, and what already exists is substantial parking that's used for events like the Food Festival and Cheese Fest and Pie Fest, etc., which does cause some congestion, but people have to go round to access that now. So I'm struggling to see any additional burden from this, except if the event space is used more often for large events than is currently the case, which is roughly 5 times a year for the food events. So whilst I have some empathy with what Councillor Atherton is saying, I'm not convinced the extent of the added traffic problems is as great as has been suggested. So I wouldn't see that as an inhibition in actually approving the application.
Thank you, Councillor Atherton.
So just in response to that, currently traffic for normal day-to-day use is allowed to use gates 2 and 3. Under the application as it currently stands, gates 2 and 3 will be limited to pedestrian access only, and the occasional delivery, if I understand it right.
Yeah, and one, I don't think, I mean, and again, please feel free to correct me, but I don't think it is normally used for access, vehicle access, other than deliveries to the retail units or the other units,
and for employees,
because those gates are normally closed,
and for employees to get in and out, because we've used it.
Okay, but yeah, whether that includes deliveries, I don't know whether that would change then, because most of the parking now is down the other end of the. So I know there's bollards along there that we talked about in the briefing that would stop traffic moving from one side of the site to the other side of the site, so they wouldn't be able to. if they were coming to work, there's no parking, as I understand it, that side. Sorry, there is around the back, which would be gate 3 would be the closest, but the road actually leads that way round. But yeah. Sorry, Councillor Gordon.
This is just a suggestion, and I'm not sure if this has already been covered, but when they come out of the site on the left-hand side and they have to come down towards the town centre, they only have to go along Park Road, and this isn't ideal, or round Park Road and up Scorford Road and down the Crescent. So this is something we can look at just to see, and then onto Nottingham Road, and then, you know, for the ones that come in from that area. But there is another point I want to make as well, if that's okay. The Festival Square, is there going to be some sort of sign that drivers can see when there is something going on there, some sort of fete or whatever, so that they know not to go in thinking they can park there, then have to turn around and come out and then look for somewhere else, even, you know, and I think that could, well, it wouldn't be very nice for the drivers having to mess about to turn around to come out. So, yeah, so there's that to think on as well, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to the licensing with anything. So if there wasn't an event and it would need licensing because it's going to take that area up, that they would have to, within their travel plan, have some format of either preventing people entering that area or whatever. I've forgotten the first part of your question now. Sorry, yeah. So it's going there. I mean, I think that would be less than ideal, but I think it's outside of planning what happens to the traffic, because I really wouldn't want to encourage. I don't think we could put any planning conditions, but we would definitely want to encourage HGVs going down the Crescent.
Yeah. I know.
And then down into that junction. So what does he say? They couldn't actually go out, follow this Scorford Road all the way out to the new ring road.
Yeah, because I know it wasn't ideal, but there was some smaller vehicles that could probably do it. But yeah, just a suggestion. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchett.
Condition 10.21 could actually deal with the point that Councillor Gordon's about car parking, normal terms, events, etc. If I could come back to the £11,000, to make the point, it is actually not for event, doesn't even include events, it's just for the employment.
Sorry, I'll ask the officers to clarify.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll just clarify the issue with the £11,000 contribution for monitoring the travel plan. That was originally requested by the Highway Authority. However, in the most recent response, they have since confirmed that fee is no longer required. So if I just read from the response, the local highway authority previously advised that a contribution would be sought for a travel plan monitoring fee. However, on reflection, whilst the travel plan has been submitted and is welcomed, due to the quantum of development proposed, such a fee would not be required, as this is below the threshold for general industrial use and the remaining increases to floor areas are relatively minor. The highway authority welcome the applicant's commitment to implement the travel plan. However, there will be no requirement for monitoring to be provided to the local highway authority, and nor would the highway authority seek to secure the implementation of the travel plan by way of planning condition. So just to clarify, Chair, the £11,000 originally requested is no longer being requested.
Thank you, Mark. Is that you okay with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can go home now, Chair.
Yeah, you can't. Any other members wish to actually add anything to the debate, Councillor Mason?
Yeah, just one thing. I've listened intently to the people that know Melton far better than I do, and I did try to get out to the cattle market on our visit, and you were behind me, so but anyway, there you go. Particularly on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I do know that. In my line, I know about it. Is there something within the construction management plan, and I don't know this, Amy, so you have to bear with me, to restrict the use of heavy goods vehicles in and around the site, so they're not coming together with the larger vehicles that are bringing in sheep, cattle, and all the rest of it. And within that, is there some condition that we could put on to alleviate some of the problems that Councillor Atherton is thinking of? And I agree with him. In restricted hours of access to the site, and if a goods vehicle comes into the site, it must stay on the site until there is a suitable time to come off the site. So it could be from 10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. These are just figures I plucked out of the air. There's no access and egress from the site by heavy goods vehicles of a construction nature. Something like that might help.
Just for clarification, are we talking about access to this site or a staging area for the construction traffic?
I'm just talking solely construction traffic.
Yeah, but I mean, construction traffic entering the site.
Yes.
And also there's a proposed staging area for the construction traffic, which I think would also be the same as the cattle market parking, the lorry parking. So if we were going to put a constriction on the entry to the site, we'd need to put it also on the staging area as well. Sorry, I was just
whatever the committee thinks. I'm just throwing it out there for debate.
I just wanted to see if the officers actually clarify that for me.
So although the construction traffic management plan has been submitted and agreed at this stage by the local highway authority, if members were minded to impose a further restriction, we could ask for a construction traffic management plan to be amended and submitted, so we can change, I think, condition 24 to change it to a pre-commencement condition. However, we need to be aware that the local highway authority have stated that they are happy with what has been submitted. So you would partially be going against what the highway authority have said.
That doesn't particularly worry me, Amy, I have to say. As you might know, we have to live with it, or the people of Melton have to live with it. The highways authority doesn't have to live with it. And so I just throw it out there for debate whether you think the committee think that it would be a good idea and would help ease the construction of this with less impact on Melton roads and inhabitants.
Councillor Atherton was first, and then Councillor Brown.
Yeah, it's something I didn't pick up in my reading of the documentation. Am I right in thinking that the staging area for construction traffic is in the current public car park off Scolford Road, in other words, behind the cattle market? Or is it somewhere else?
I believe it's the current lorry park, not the public car park, the lorry park that is used on cattle market days.
So is access to that off Nottingham Road or off Scolford Road?
It's off Nottingham Road.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
I have some sympathy with what Councillor Mason is proposing, but I was just trying to rack my mind as to what times would be appropriate. I mean, I live at the top of Nottingham Road. I thankfully don't get caught up in the traffic very often because I normally walk down the road. But I think after 2:30 and until 5 o'clock, you know, that's the sort of time you'd have to be saying don't use the road, you know, to make any sense of it. And bearing in mind that the exit for construction traffic, from what you're saying, is going to be not going to be at the new entrance on Nottingham Road. It's going to be the one further up, which is the access to the rear of the cattle market, if I'm correct. That's less problematic for access and exit than, you know, the gate further down, where you do often get traffic across that junction. So I like the idea, but I think you'd have to give some very careful thought, and I don't know what the answer would be in terms of what the right times would be to put any further restriction on.
Like I said, the chair, through you, Chair, I'm not wedded to the idea. It's just a way to relieve some of the angst around the traffic issues in and around the site, particularly on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because we know the amount of traffic or heavy traffic that's around there, and construction traffic is only going to make it worse, I believe. So if it's not a goer, that's fine, but it's just something that we need to consider, I think.
Yeah, being pragmatic from my point of view, it's one of those cases where I think obviously the people doing the construction will understand that it's going to be busy those days, and do they actually want their trucks to get there? And therefore, is it worth challenging county council highways on that basis?
Always worth a challenge.
Thank you for that. Could I ask, does anybody else wish to enter the debate or look for any changes? Or can I ask for somebody that would like to make a proposal? Councillor Mason.
Sorry, Chair, just one thing. Did we ever resolve Councillor Atherton's request? He seemed to make a request about a condition, or was I drifting off at some point? I don't know. Or
I'm looking to see if Councillor Atherton can remember.
Yeah. Okay.
So no, we haven't, because Amy was going to look into it.
Amy,
can I just ask which highways response you found the word in which you referenced?
Oh no, you're asking me. I had it a second. No. I think it was in the second, the most recent response. I'll have to find it again now.
So I have done a word search, and I found in the comments from the Highways Authority on the 6th of January, they reference the MEC, who is the transport consultant used by the applicant. They have referenced wording used by them in their response. Yep. So this is MEC's wording. No account has been taken of the 10% reductions in single occupancy car driver trips that the client will be committed by planning condition to implement. So that's the applicant's wording.
Right, that's the exact wording that I was reading.
So if I just move to the Highway Authority's response to that, if I can find it quickly. So the Highway Authority's response to that is that the local Highway Authority previously advised that so it's the same as what Mark read out, sorry, but just skip down the paragraph slightly. The local highway authority would welcome the applicant's commitment to implement the travel plan. However, there will be no requirement for monitoring to be provided by the local highway authority, and nor will the local highway authority seek to secure the implementation of the travel plan by way of planning condition.
Okay.
Okay. Microphone. Ian. Yeah. Can I then, Councillor Mason?
Yeah, then I'm happy with that, because a condition is only a condition if it's enforceable, and the route we're going down there, that it just wasn't enforceable, that condition. So I'm happy with that. So I'm happy to propose, Chair.
And Councillor Pritchett. So proposed by Councillor Mason, second by Councillor Pritchett. So we have the motion to accept the proposal or the application as proposed. Can I have those in favour of the motion? That's unanimous. Therefore, I make the application passed and for approval. Thank you for everybody's time. Thank you, everybody. There's no extra meeting, and I'll declare this meeting closed at 7:04. Thank you very much for your time.